Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Talos of Tech live on Twitch. And the reason I'm thankful today is because normally, in case you weren't aware, typically I do 2 to 3 streams a week where I don't stream twice in a row. So if I stream on Tuesday, I'll stream again on Thursday. Thursday is Thanksgiving. I'm not going to be live. I'm probably going to be taking most of the day off. So, and you should too. You should not be all on YouTube. Y'all should just be, well, I guess it's 2020. Huh? I don't know if you should all be with your families. You should be FaceTiming all your families safely. And maybe the people you're living with, you can spend time with them and just be thankful with family. And then the rest of the year, we can all just waste time on YouTube and Twitch. That's what we have every day for. But Thanksgiving is for each other and for being grateful and thankful. So this is my last Twitch stream before the giving, essentially. Expos1, thank you for the 200 bits. Yes, it is a Q&A. And thank you for the 23 months of Twitch Prime. Hello from Winnipeg. Hey, how's Winnipeg doing? I hope you're doing well. Thanks for tuning in. Let's see. I see you haven't been putting up in any dancing lately in the streams. When will it take for a new dancing clip to return? We have to clean the office first. Otherwise, I'm going to get comments every day about how messy the office is. And two, the other problem is the office is not in a permanent setup right now. There's so many different things being moved around and different cables and stuff that are out right now because I'm using the MacBook Air, which I'm not normally using, and I have this big monitor here, and I have the iMac Pro pushed off to the side, and I have a bunch of return boxes sitting around, a bunch of cables I need to recycle, wireless chargers I need to give to people, and it's just a big mess. And when I do the dance, I have to clean up. Otherwise, I never hear the end of it because every time the stream plays, people are going to say, hey, this looks terrible or this looks messy. He should clean it. I can't. It's very hard to record and export and add the countdown into OBS, so it's not easily replaceable. But also, we want to make sure that whatever music gets used in the Twitch streams, that they're royalty-free. As Twitch is cracking down on DMCA takedowns and that kind of thing. So we got to be extra duper careful. Extra duper. That doesn't make sense, does it? Super duper. This looks terrible. This looks messy. He should clean it. Yeah, exactly. See, they're already doing it. The music is made by Randy. Yeah, Randy has to get on it. He makes a lot of music. Not a lot of it is dancing music, though. But let's see. If Randy's going full-time soon, he should be able to produce some music I could dance to. Or maybe he could sing in it. We could make some kind of music that was specifically designed for the countdown. I don't know. He's busy right now, so we'll give him some time to think. I don't want to put anything on him until he gets a what's it called? Apple Silicon Mac, because these things are amazing, and I'm loving it. MacBook Air is still holding up great, still exporting all kinds of videos and content on it. I'm very impressed, and I don't know. I'm kind of curious with you guys because you guys, in a way, because I'm sort of my own boss, I can do what I want. But I'm also reviewing this stuff for you. You know, I didn't really need a MacBook Air. I didn't really need to test out an M1 chip. I could have just watched the video. But I want to do the best I can to let you know my experiences with the M1 chip and Apple Silicon. And have I used it long enough? Like, how long do I really have to use it to say, like, I thoroughly tested it for my uses? You know, there are certain things people can ask that are just a little bit out of control. Like, compare it to this, and they're things that I don't have. So I'm not really that interested in buying up a bunch of Macs or testing out games that I don't own. Drew, buy this game, and play it on the Mac. So I'm not willing to do that. But if there's use cases or examples that with my current setup I can use. Do I have to keep using the MacBook Air, or should I just use it as long as possible? Because I've kind of reached the point where I'm like, okay, M1 chip has made its point. It's fast. It's efficient. It's amazing, and it's fanless on the MacBook Air, and it's still able to do amazing quality streams like this, and still edit 4K at 60 videos and export them really, really efficiently. What else is there to real test? I guess I can download Minecraft, but again, I'm still going to tell everyone just, it's a MacBook. It's not for gaming. Can it game a little bit, but that's not what it's going to be good for. M1 chip doesn't change that. It's like, oh, okay, it's 60 frames instead of 40 frames. All right, great. But anywho, Thank you so much, Chris Norton, for the 1100 bits. He says it's not Thanksgiving in the UK. Well, it's not Thanksgiving here. I'm just doing it now because I'm not going to be live on Thanksgiving Day. So this is Tailosive Tech Twitch Thanksgiving today. That's what we're celebrating, which impacts all countries across the world. We're all celebrating Tailosive Tech Twitch Thanksgiving. Tailosive Tech Twitch Thanksgiving. That's 4 T's in a row. Tailosive Tech Thanksgiving. And it's Tuesday. Tailosive Tech Twitch Thanksgiving Tuesday. 5 T's in a row. Are you liking the iPhone mini? So I've switched to the 12 Pro Max for reviewing purposes, not because I was done with the 12 mini, but after my weekend of using the Pro Max, I will say it feels a bit overbearing. It's I think something about the display being so huge and the edges being so square is making it remind me more of an iPad. It just feels like an iPad running iOS instead of iPadOS. That's what it feels like right now. Not that that's a bad thing. I love my iPad, but yeah, I'm still really split. Like on one hand, the 12 mini is very comfortable and easy to use with one hand, and battery life isn't very good on it, but most of my lifestyle is at my desk and working from home anyway, so I can easily just leave it on a wireless charger I have right here off camera, and that charges fine. So battery with day-to-day life is not really that big an issue. It would be an issue if I was spending a lot of time away from the desk and a lot of time not charging or not in a place where I have the option to charge, but I don't. I really can't say that's a common situation. I've taken some photos and videos with the 12 Pro Max. They're good. Telephoto lens is pretty impressive, honestly. The fact that, with the digital zoom, you can go up to 12x is pretty cool. I've taken some nice photos on it. I've been impressed with the cameras, but I wasn't disappointed with the 12 mini cameras either. Like, that's still an amazing camera in itself. I know the 12 Pro Max isn't much bigger than an 11 Pro Max, but it feels bigger because of the flat edges. Like, the 11 Pro Max had a smaller footprint and it was rounded off. So it was only this certain footprint at the very, very edge. Now that it's squared off and a larger footprint, something about it, even though it's just a 0.2 inch difference. I was showing it to a friend of mine recently who works at a phone case stand, and masked up, of course, and sanitizing and all that. But he basically sells phone cases, and I showed it to him because he still had an 11 Pro Max, and I was like, this is what the 12 Pro Max looks like. And he was like, yeah, it feels way bigger, even though it's really not. And I think it's just the placebo of the squared off design making it feel more full. It's also heavier than the 11 Pro Max, despite being thinner, which makes it feel more like a brick. And it's the opposite of a one-handed phone. This is a phone nearly impossible to use with one hand. And I have pretty big hands, and I still find myself usually using it with two hands like this, kind of, again, using it more like an iPad than anything. So it really would have sealed the deal if it had 120 hertz. I'll be honest with you there. If it had ProMotion, I would obviously keep it. But because it doesn't, it's making me think maybe this year it's just better off to just experiment with the 12 mini. It's only going to be 10 months until the next iPhone comes out, and just do a mini iPhone experiment for 10 months. And then after 10 months we can go back to the Max, because I do enjoy the larger display. I enjoy the notch being minimal. The notch doesn't feel as intrusive on a display like this. And on the 12 mini, the notch feels extra intrusive because of relative to the size it is. And I do like the flat edge design, which I get on both of them. Definitely prefer the aluminum chassis to the stainless steel chassis, but yeah, it's still a tough call after using both of them now. I still can't decide. I've never been so indecisive on this. Let's see. Does the MagSafe charger create a bunch of heat when being used with the phone on? I think it does a little bit. To be honest, I haven't used MagSafe with the phone that often. Typically, the time I'm using MagSafe is when I go to bed and it's charging, which not so much. I'm sure it generates a bit of heat. My non-engineering thesis here as to why, like, I exclusively wirelessly charged my XS Max, and it had great battery health after a year of use. And then I fast charged my 11 Pro Max, and after just a couple of months, I saw the battery health go down. My theory with the whole wireless charging versus fast charging thing, and feel free to discredit it if you want to, because I'm no expert and I'm kind of an idiot here. But my theory is that when you wirelessly charge, a lot of heat is dispersed on the outside of the phone. So the glass and the metal somewhat generate some heat because there's a magnetic charge going through the glass. But the battery itself is actually not getting that hot. It's just the outside of the phone is getting somewhat warm. I feel like this because when I unboxed my MagSafe charger on stream here, and for some reason I had the Apple Watch charge puck and I put it on on top of the MagSafe puck. For whatever reason, that made it activate, and they both started getting really, really warm. And I was like, okay, there's no battery in either one of these pucks, but because there was a magnetic attachment here, it's emitting energy and everything's getting really, really hot. So when you wirelessly charge, there's heat dispersed on the outside, but when you fast charge with a lightning port, the heat is coming internally. It's the battery heating up, and some of that heat is translating to external heat, but it's from the inside going outward, whereas when you wirelessly charge, it's from the outside going inward. I don't know. Probably no science to that. That's just my theory as to why. Wireless charging, while it does make the phone hot, it preserves the battery health better than using a cable for fast charging. But I don't know. Why not the regular 12 and meet in the middle? I don't like that size. I've tried the 6.1-inch iPhone. I used it for 2 weeks straight. And I'm a saturated guy, as you may call it. I like vibrant colors. I like, if you're going to go red, go red. I don't like muted colors and that kind of thing. And it's not just with colors, it's also with sizes. If I want a more compact phone, I want a really compact phone. And I'm pretty confident I could live with the 12 mini for a long time because I got used to it. I used it for a week and it didn't feel lacking. It didn't feel like the display was too small. It felt just right. It felt comfortable. But if I want something bigger, I want to go big. I want to go huge. And similar to how I like colors to be saturated and obvious, I either want a Max or I want a Mini. I don't want something in between. And yes, I did try the 12 Pro. That was basically the same phone as the 12. So there's no need to buy a 12 just to see how I feel about that. But the 6.1-inch size, I get why it's there. That's probably the best for most people. It's somewhere in the middle. It's decent enough battery and not overbearing like the Max is. But for me, I'm not a middle ground guy. I want to go all in on something. I want to go completely committed to it. And to me, the difference between the Pro Max and the 12 Mini are like almost two completely different products. It's almost like the 12 Pro Max is more phablet iPad product, and the 12 Mini is more OG iPhone. I'm an extreme guy when it comes to picking up which type of phone I like. And 12 Pro Max, I just feel like I'm kind of surprised that they went with such a large sensor with the Pro Max, and it really doesn't make that big a difference. I've taken photos and videos with it, and I just don't really notice that big an impact with it. And hearing rumors that these camera sensors they're putting in the Max are going to come to the regular iPhones next year, I'm like, I don't think that's a big deal. I don't think that means very much. And when they were talking about the Pro Max getting all these exclusive camera features, I had hopes that it would be like a noticeable improvement. But in side-by-sides, I can't tell the difference. And the 12 Mini camera is still great. I know there's no telephoto, but I'm just not willing to spend that kind of money just on a telephoto lens. It's not that big of a difference to me. Digital zoom really isn't that bad either, unless you're doing pixel peaking when you're like really, really zooming in on an image to see little bits of detail. But for average, everyday run-of-the-mill pictures, I don't think it makes that big a difference. But do you believe you are ready for a portless iPhone? I'm ready. I think the 12 Mini should be portless. I think that would actually help it a lot. For one, because the battery is so small, wireless charging doesn't impact your charging speed very much. So a lot of people were getting bizarrely mad when they found out that the 12 Mini was limited to 12 watts of MagSafe wireless charging. That's a good thing. People were acting like, oh no, it's a slower charge. It's not a slower charge. The fact is the battery is smaller, so it requires less watts to charge at the same speed as the Pro and Pro Max does. That's a good thing. It means that you don't have to buy the 20-watt brick to get the fastest charge. Like, even charging 12 mini with like a 5-watt brick is faster than the other two because the battery's so small. So that actually adds features. But my main issue with the 12 mini is pretty much a knockout of the ballpark. They nailed it. The one issue I have is the battery is not great. So if they removed the charge port and increased the battery life by 1 or 2 hours, I think it would be perfect. Only downside now being, of course, there's no lightning, which some people might really, really want, but I think there's plenty of people that could likely live without it. If you had to pick one iPhone to ditch the charge port on, I would definitely pick the 12 mini for sure. And there's rumors still going around that there's going to be at least one portless iPhone next year. I would say 12 mini has the most to benefit from a portless design because the Lightning port relatively takes up the most amount of space in that phone. But I'm ready for it. I don't think the whole world is ready for it. I still think it's a bad idea to remove the charge port next year. I think it's too soon, and Apple should let MagSafe become more of a widely supported thing because it's not even 1 year. I mean, they're introducing MagSafe in November and, well, October technically, but like late October. They're introducing MagSafe in late October, and then now we're hearing that they could remove the charge port. That'll probably be September of next year. That's not even a year to get the new wireless charging standard out and supported. So I think that's too fast. And I also think the 12S phones are going to be very, very minor, incremental. And if there's not going to be that many reasons to upgrade next year, then removing things that could throw people off is not a great plan. You should remove the charge port when there's a bunch of exciting and new features that people want to upgrade to anyway. You shouldn't remove the charge port on a boring year. You know what I mean? Like you can remove the charge port if there's some type of giant monumental leap with cameras or giant monumental leap with battery life or efficiency with a processor, or the display is getting substantially better, or maybe they're shrinking the notch or something. If there was some big noticeable improvement that everybody obviously wanted, that would be a good time to remove the charge port because people won't be thinking too much about it. They'll be like, oh yeah, I can't use Lightning, but at least I'll get XYZ, whatever that is. If there's not a big XYZ, there's not a big deal to upgrade for, but there's a drawback, then I don't get it. I feel like that's just going to turn people away and no one's going to want to upgrade. But I could live without a port. I've made that point clear. Are there any downsides to an M1 Mac apart from not running Windows/apps being optimized? Right now, it would be the I/O. I would say the one downside of the M1 chip in my testing is that they only gave it one Thunderbolt controller, which means that every M1 Mac only has 2 USB-C ports, which in my opinion is a limitation, especially for people who actually can utilize the M1 chip. That's the funny thing. Like, the people who were buying MacBook Airs and base model MacBook Pros and Mac Minis before, they were not people that really needed the type of performance the M1 offers. I mean, they can benefit from it. Sure, we can all benefit from it. It's great. Now we can. Now I can do these types of OBS streams with a fanless Mac. Now I can edit 4K at 60 videos. That's great, and it adds functionality. But the people who know how to do those things, the people that actually have workflows that require M1 chip type performance, are typically people that would appreciate or utilize more I/O, like 4 USB-C ports and having multiple different adapters and cam links and microphones and everything plugged in. So having all this great performance that can outperform the 16-inch MacBook Pro, but putting it in a machine with 2 USB-C ports is just like, you know, putting a V12 in a smart car. So that's the one limitation of the M1 right now. And of course, my recommendation is that if your current Mac is fine and your current Mac can still do what you need it to, then just wait, because I'm guessing that a large majority of the Mac lineup will be transitioned to Apple Silicon a year from now. So if you can last another year with your Intel Mac, I would say try to, because there's a good chance that either as soon as March, and if not March, then probably June, when we get quadruple UDC 2021, that's when the larger Apple Silicon transition will happen, and you'll have a lot more options to choose from. You'll have a 13-inch MacBook Pro that has 2 fans and 4 USB-C ports instead of just 2. And it's possible that there's mini LED MacBooks in the works if you care about the display improvements. It sounds like that type of upgrade is not that far away. A MacBook redesign, basically. A redesigned iMac, if you're more of a desktop user, that's not too far away. So it's not the end of the world to skip the M1 chip currently, because I think the best of Apple Silicon is yet to come. So only really consider if you were in the market for a MacBook Air anyway, and you didn't have any interest in getting a Mac with more I/O. If you're fine with 2 USB-C ports and you can live with that, then yeah, honestly, there's no real drawback. M1 chip is just better in every metric. It's cheaper, it's better value, it's better performance, it's quieter, it's more power efficient, better battery life. There's really no drawbacks other than, like you said, the not running boot camp and that kind of thing. But Craig Federighi has since said that Apple Silicon Macs running Windows is up to Microsoft. So the way I saw that was Apple was saying that we can theoretically put Windows 10 on the Apple Silicon Macs, but Microsoft has to optimize for it. So we'll see. You just have to wait 2 more months, then you can get an Apple Silicon Mac. No need to wait after that or once they come out. No. Don't buy one. Wait about a year, then they're going to make it even better. Yusuf, this is not my fault. This is Apple's fault. This is the reason I was so frustrated after the Apple event took place, was because I was hoping they could clean up the Mac lineup a little bit, and instead they made it more confusing, which I blame Apple for. The reason I'm torn is because Apple tells us, yeah, we're going to release Apple Silicon in a few months, so hold off on buying if you can, because obviously Apple Silicon's going to be much, much better, and we'll know what we want. And to a certain demographic, if you were just in the market for a MacBook Air, now is a good time to buy. I don't think we're going to get another MacBook Air in the next 6 to 10 months. I think that the M1 chip MacBook Airs are probably going to be the new standard for a while. So to those people, you've got something to buy. Now is a good time to upgrade. If you're fine with the Mac Mini with 2 USB-C ports, it's also now a great time to upgrade. The reason I'm confused and the reason I'm frustrated with Apple on the rollout is they've just made it even more confusing with having Intel Mac Mini and Intel MacBook Pro and Apple Silicon MacBook Pro. Same size, but 2 different processors, and the M1 chip is outperforming the 16-inch MacBook Pro. My point is, I was assuming that they were going to transition more of the lineup at once. I didn't think that they would be this minor about it initially. So at the end of the day, my suggestion really hasn't changed. If you can wait. But if you can't wait, and you can live with 2 USB-C ports, then that's fine. Go for it. Let's see. I think buying the iPad Pro over the M1 MacBook Air is stupid unless you need the Apple Pencil or need to film things with the iPad. No, I don't think it's stupid. iPad Pro does a lot of things better by far. Honestly, when I am looking for something to use in the morning for social media and checking email and watching YouTube videos, I want to grab my iPad Pro every time. The only reason I'm grabbing my MacBook Air is because I feel like I have to review it. MacBook Air, I wouldn't oversimplify it as saying the iPad Pro is only good if you need an Apple Pencil. I would argue that the MacBook Air is pretty much only good if you need Final Cut or Xcode. Outside of that, if you need a bunch of storage, if you need like a ton of SSD space, which again is pretty much people that are making a lot of files, like whether it's Final Cut or Xcode or Logic. Outside of those 3 programs, I would choose the iPad Pro every day of the week. It's more fun to use because I can interact with the display, or I can use a keyboard and mouse. I have both, whereas the MacBook is limited to just one. The MacBook looks more dated. It's the same design MacBook we've been looking at for the past 5 years. iPad Pro is thinner. It has an accelerometer, so the app library is very rich with lots of different games to choose from, whereas the Mac, you can run iPad apps on the Mac, but they're not going to be optimized that well. If you care about Apple services like Arcade, they're much more optimized for the iPad. It's 120 hertz, which looks way cleaner, looks way better. It has Face ID, which is way better than the Touch ID button, in my opinion. The speakers are still great. It's very light. It's very easy to throw in a bag, take around with you. And yeah, the camera's there for document scanning, which is helpful. And the fact that I can pull it off the keyboard case when I need to is really, really helpful. And having a 1080p 60 FPS front-facing camera on the iPad, so much better for FaceTime than the crappy 720p camera that they're still shipping with the MacBook Airs. So if you want to oversimplify the iPad, I can oversimplify the MacBook and just say, outside of those 3 programs, iPad's better in every way. If the iPad Pro had Final Cut, Logic, and Xcode, it would be a completely different discussion. Trust me. If I could get Final Cut on the iPad, then I would have a very, very hard time understanding why I should go with a MacBook Air instead. It does run a full desktop operating system, but that doesn't make it better. If you are in school and you're taking a lot of notes and math classes, the MacBook is not going to be very helpful. I remember in my statistics class in college and that kind of thing, or in business class where they have you taking notes and that kind of thing, and you have to draw out lines and graphs and stuff. iPad is going to be monumentally more helpful than a keyboard and mouse setup. Trying to take notes in math class with a keyboard and mouse is just a mess. And the iPad is getting a lot of desktop-like functionality now. Like the browser's all optimized for desktop usage. You can still do PowerPoint and document editing that you need on the iPad. Very, very well optimized and much more versatile. There's so many different input methods. And if you're in school and the teachers are handing out documents and that kind of thing, having a document scanner to take pictures of and digitize those PDFs, way more useful than, you can't really do that with a MacBook. What are you're gonna hold up the piece of paper to the potato webcam? Like, that's way better. I would take the iPad for most situations. Only reason the Mac is still around is those 3 programs. That's what a fully fledged desktop operating system really allows for, is like OBS, live streaming, and Final Cut. That's it. Outside of that, iPad's better at Twitter, it's better at Discord, it's better at email, it's better at social media, it's better at passwords with Face ID and the biometric. I think they're very comparable. The fact that they share so many differences is what makes them so fun to compare, because they can both do very similar things just in very different ways, different metrics, which is why they're much more fun to compare. At this point, they need to merge the iPad Mac into one product. No, that would defeat the purpose. They don't have a lot of similarities. That's the great thing, is that you can pick one over the other for its advantages versus disadvantages. You don't need to merge it into one product. You can make both better at the same time. And if someone wants a MacBook, they can buy a MacBook. And if someone wants an iPad, they can buy an iPad. Options are good. We don't need to eliminate options. Which iPad size do you prefer? I really didn't mind the 11-inch iPad Pro when I tested it. If I had a laptop already, I would go with the 11-inch iPad Pro and just not use it with a keyboard case. I would say the 11-inch iPad is better for portrait mode use and like just using it as a touchscreen. But if you plan on using a keyboard and mouse with your iPad, the 12.9 inch is probably a lot better, because that gives you the same size keyboard that the MacBook Air has with the Magic Keyboard. Whereas if you try to go with the 11-inch iPad Pro keyboard, it looks fairly smushed and very crammed. You can do it. Some people like those little portable notebooks like that, but in my opinion, if you're going to use your iPad as a 2-in-1, go with the larger screen. But if you're just planning on using it as an iPad and you're not planning on keyboard and mouse support, then 11 inches much better. Let's see. I hope one day Macs get a bit more sensible storage pricing. Else is great. Yeah, storage pricing isn't great, but it is better than what the iPad Pro can offer at this point. Pretty cheap compared to how much it would cost to get a 512 gig iPad Pro with a Magic Keyboard case. But iPad still has cellular support. MacBooks don't, which is a huge advantage to a ton of people. I think I've heard both Nick and Randy say that the main reason they prefer iPads is just for the fact that they have their own internet. They don't have to hotspot off their phone, and they can connect to LTE without needing any extra help. You can use your iPhone for support, but for some people that live in areas where Wi-Fi is not very reliable, doing everything off the phone hotspot kind of nukes the battery, and there are certain carriers that limit your phone hotspot speed after a certain amount of gigs used, which is why having a direct cellular plan for the iPad is very helpful for a lot of people. Let's see. A hybrid device by Apple would be bomb. We have a hybrid device. The only reason they don't do it is because they already have 2 successful products. They don't want to end up with one. My point is the iPad is a hybrid. The Magic Keyboard case turns it into a hybrid product. You don't need another one. There's not some middle ground. The iPad is the middle ground here. The iPad is the hybrid between iOS and iPhones and Macs. You're getting the best of the touch interface, and you're getting the best of what Macs are capable of with the keyboard and mouse system. The only limitation is just what apps can they put on the iPad. If they start putting Final Cut, Logic, and Xcode on the iPad, which is probably in the works, in development, then that's it. That's your hybrid product. I don't know what you would want in the middle. You got your keyboard and mouse. You got a detachable display with a touch interface. So, yeah. Hey, Drew, I've got the 2019 base MacBook Pro. Shall I sell it and get the new MacBook Air? I won't be paying any extra money since I might sell it for the same price as the new Air. Are you losing I/O? Because that would be my main concern. If you have it's a base MacBook Pro, so that would be 2 USB-C ports. Yeah. If you can sell it for the same price as the MacBook Air and you have your same storage, I don't really see much of a loss there. I guess you're not getting fans anymore, but I'm pretty confident the M1 chip is much faster than the 2019 base MacBook Pro. Yeah, definitely is. Way faster because it's faster than the 16-inch MacBook Pro. So yeah, if you can get it for the same price, I don't see much of a loss. If it's holding up for you, then you might want to consider waiting if you're willing to spend a little bit extra money and wait for the M1X chip. But if you don't think you would utilize the 4 ports and that kind of thing, then yeah, why not? Why not go with the M1 Air? I don't see much of a loss there. I don't see much you'd be missing out on. iPad MacBook hybrid would do everything both can do. I think that they're already there. I think that would be redundant. I think that everything that's preventing an iPad MacBook hybrid is software related, not hardware related. It all comes down to what they're willing to bring to the iPad software wise. It's not about the hardware of the iPad is not what's preventing it from being the full hybrid device. I mean, already I feel like it's basically there. There's only like 3 or 4 programs preventing it from being a full, like it can do everything a Mac can do. It's not that far off. Let's see. Was the Christmas surprise really just a microphone? I don't know why anybody believed the Christmas surprise leak. For one, leakers are wrong all the time now. Most of the leak community is complete and utter garbage and lies that people forget about 2 seconds after they're disproven. Literally, there was some leaker that claimed they were like at, what was it? What's his name? Leaks Apple Pro. He said he was at the iPhone event as it was being filmed in September, and he said Phil Schiller was there, and he claimed that they were filming it in front of like 15 or 20 people from the press, and he said he was one of them. And then it was revealed later that his IP address was from Spain. And, of course, Phil Schiller was not in the event. The guy was clearly lying. And yet there's still people who follow him and act like his leaks have any kind of validity to them. And now he starts hiding leaks behind a paywall. And he's saying, like, join my Patreon for more exclusive leaks. And there's people paying him. It was, like, objectively clear. He took down his Twitter account after people exposed it. And they were like, hey, look, you're clearly not in the U.S., and Phil Schiller was clearly not. All of his predictions were wrong, and yet people are paying this guy now. That's just one example. There's all kinds of bull crap. There's all kinds of leaks in the community. Apparently because one person said that there's supposed to be a Christmas surprise, that means that there's supposed to be a Christmas surprise. Apple's never done that before. If there is some type of Christmas surprise, it's probably like some new watch bands. I don't know why people are like, AirPods Studio. For one, it makes no financial sense for Apple to launch something on Christmas Day because Apple wants to beat the holiday. Apple wants all of their products out for Black Friday sales and for holiday shopping season. They don't want them after holiday shopping is already over. And Love to Dream has said Love to Dream said that there wouldn't be any Apple Watches in September. So Love to Dream has a somewhat more decent track record, but from what I've heard recently, he's retiring or whatever. He's not even doing it anymore. So I wouldn't believe everything he says, especially when he says something that doesn't sound believable. So I'm just saying don't expect a Christmas surprise. If there is, it's probably something incredibly minor. MagSafe Duo available now. That's it. Like, I don't think it's a big like AirPod Studio or AirTags. Here they are. Like, I don't think that's what it is. That's not what I'm anticipating. If AirTags or AirPod Studio were this close to being ready, they would have brought them up at the event. There's not really a reason to not bring them up at the November event and just do a website refresh later. It's stupid. Just don't. We gotta draw the line somewhere here. People get proved wrong over and over again, and yet people just immediately forget about how wrong they are and then keep believing them. It sickens me. Ugh. Let's see. A hybrid would be perfect. All that would take to make it a hybrid is the OS. It's not a hardware thing. Apple is running a 5nm chip, and the iPads are soon going to be running a 5nm chip. Both fanless. Both have keyboard and mouse support. It's all software. Let's see. There are a multitude of apps that are only on Mac and not on iPad OS. I don't know if I would say multitudes. I would say maybe less than 20. I don't know about multitudes. I feel like the majority of apps preventing people from switching fully to the iPad are fairly small. There's a huge number of people that just need Xcode or just need Final Cut or just need, it's a software limitation. It all could be changed in an update 1 year. That's all I'm saying. There doesn't need to be a hardware thing in between. Apple 99.99% of the time doesn't do Black Friday discount. Yeah, was someone expecting there to be some kind of discounted prices on Black Friday? If you were if you were disappointed by the Black Friday sale, this is not new. Apple's Black Friday deals have pretty much always been exactly the same. They've pretty much always just been, if you buy select items, you get a gift card. They've done that for, I think, the past 10 years now. Also, the battery life on MacBooks is a lot better than iPads. Depends on what you're doing. If you're doing light tasks in the background, I would say that they're pretty close. They could improve the iPad's battery life with a silicon upgrade. I mean, this is the first generation M1 chip. At this point, we don't even know if Apple's going to put M1 chips in the iPad. They might. Who knows? I mean, we don't really know what's going to happen here. For a large majority of 2020, we thought that A14X chips were going into the MacBook. And then at the last minute, we find out, oh, it's the M1 chip. So maybe they're planning on putting the M1 into iPads. Who knows? We don't know what they're going to do. They're both going to be the A14X chip, if that does exist, is still going to be a 5nm design. It performance-wise will be probably pretty close to what the iPads can do. Let's see. Isn't the M1 Air only 14% less powerful than M1 Pro? It's something like that from what I read. It's not a big difference. It's like the M1 chip performance between the Mac Mini and the MacBook Air are fairly close. Thank you, Chris Norton. 1,000 bits. Wow, appreciate it. This stream is a Talos of holiday. It is. Celebrate Talos of Tech Twitch Thanksgiving Tuesday. Yeah, M1 basically is A14X. It's not officially because we don't know. It's possible that in a few months Apple could launch the A14X chip, and that is technically different than the M1 chip, but who knows? I have a video coming up about that later, about is having an M series and an A number X series redundant. It doesn't make sense to keep a 14X, a 16X, a 18X. Does it make sense to continue those processors and at the same time also have M1, M1X, M2, or why don't we just start merging the two? Why not? It will be an M1 without the Thunderbolt controller. Basically, that would be like the one difference. Performance-wise, they would probably be pretty close. Thank you for the bits, Chris Norton. That's a lot. Let's see. I like this. Can buy Apple any time of the year, and you know you're getting a good deal, while Samsung 50% off after 6 months. Well, I mean, not anything Apple. Sometimes Apple will refresh things very, very close together. Like the MacBook Air, they refreshed like in May of 2020 with the Intel processor and the Magic Keyboard, and then like 6 months later, they dropped the M1 chip. No, I'm not keeping the M1 Air. I didn't get the M1 Pro, so it would be pretty hard for me to keep it. But no, I need a Mac with more I/O. That's the main limiting factor here. But yeah, right now iPad Pro is my laptop of choice, other than just a handful of applications that the iPad doesn't have. But very close to supporting everything. But attention's on Apple Silicon for now. That's the main star of the show. What would be funny is if they just take the M1, take out the Thunderbolt controller, and call it the A14X. I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, the A12Z chip is just the A12X with one extra GPU core activated. You know, it's turned off on the A12X, and they got the production rates to have a high enough yield to actually... It's still a better processor, but it's very, design-wise, very, very similar. Apple products barely go on sale, and when they go down by like $50 on Black Friday, whereas Windows laptops at the same stores are like 75% off. Yeah, it's because the demand's not there. After Apple fully ditches Intel, do you think Apple will crap talk them after? Probably. Well, no, not really, because they're still going to be supporting Intel Macs for a long time. I guess it depends on what you mean by crap talk. If by crap talk you just mean say that Apple Silicon is so much better, then yeah, I mean they're gonna, in that case they're already crap talking. I think they're most likely just going to focus on how good Apple Silicon is, not so much. They're not going to have like 10 minutes on stage talking about why Intel sucks or anything like that. No, they have a lot of relationships with Intel, and they bought out their modem business, and you know they're currently, to this day, still selling, $50,000 computers with Intel in them. So I don't think that 2 years later they're just going to start saying, man, Intel sucks, because that would be like saying all of these Macs we've been shipping for 15 years suck. So they're not going to say that. They're going to want to be proud of the software support they're supplying to all their Intel's machines, even after they stop selling all the Intel machines. But either way, I think Apple's just going to be just like similar to the iPhone. They don't bring up the Qualcomm chip that often. Sometimes they bring it up in like a bar graph or something. But for the most part, Apple likes saying A14 chip is this much faster than the A13 chip, or this much faster than the A12 chip. Not so much like it's so much faster than the Snapdragon 865. Occasionally they do a little bar graph, but that's about it. In fact, normally it wouldn't be the Snapdragon 865. Normally they would be like the Pixel. Here's the Pixel 4 performance, and here's the iPhone performance. Here's the S20 performance, and here's the iPhone. That's the long thing. What's the longest time you have stretched a PC? I'm on my laptop 5 to 6 years. Let's see. Stretched a PC. My iMac Pro is coming up on 3 years. I bought the 2016 MacBook Pro. I guess I only had that for 1 year. I replaced it with the iMac Pro. Before that, I had an iMac that I bought in 2011, and I used it until 2016. So that was 5 years. That's probably one of the longest I've gone. 5 years, I would say. But that thing was really slow. By the time I was ready to replace it, well, and that's kind of a stretch too, because honestly, in the last couple of years before I bought my 16-inch MacBook Pro, I actually started editing my videos off my iPad Pro. This was before iPadOS. This was before mouse support. I was just using my Apple Pencil and iMovie, and I made some of the first big performing tech videos I did on the iPad Pro, to be honest. It got me through it. You can get a lot of work done. You can manage a whole YouTube channel off an iPad. I know it. I've done it. And that was before there was a lot more helpful software than there is today. That was pre-LumaFusion, and that was before Safari would bring the desktop version of websites. So now it's even easier than it was when I did it. But so yeah, I was probably using that 2011 iMac for 3 or 4 years, and then during that third or fourth year is when I started editing a lot of videos off my iPad. And then in 2016, I got the 15-inch MacBook Pro. I forgot it was 15 back then. And then iMac Pro, and then that's where we are now. Back in my day, I'm using a 2010 laptop. Still works pretty well. Yeah, me and my wife still use a 2009 MacBook Pro every day because it has a DVD player. And for Christmas a couple of years ago, my sister bought me this DVD set of Everybody Loves Raymond, which is one of my favorite sitcoms. And we've been going through the DVD set. I don't have a normal DVD player hooked up to my TV, so that laptop is the only way we can watch those DVDs. It's so slow. It's sluggish. It's really, really hard booting up, and its battery life is shot. It can't be really used for anything else. It can't even do light web browsing, but it does play DVDs pretty well, and the speakers work fairly well. So 2009, 11 years later, Model S is not even, the oldest Model S is not as old as that laptop, which is crazy to think about. Isn't the Snapdragon 865 behind last year's A13? No, I don't think it's that bad. I think from what I've read in the Geekbench tests, it kind of depends on what you're doing. There's certain apps that utilize the Snapdragon architecture a bit better. But from what I read, the Snapdragon chips were not too far behind Apple Silicon. It's not a big concern of mine because I still know that Apple Silicon, even if it's not as fast as the Qualcomm, it's going to be way better at power efficiency, which I think matters more. It comes a point where it's like, okay, it's a phone, guys. It's like the extreme CPU and GPU performance on a phone isn't really going to be utilized that much. What matters more is how little power it can draw, which Apple still has a severe advantage in that department compared to Snapdragon, and how Android handles RAM, which is a big mess. So it's not like if the 875 ends up being faster than the A14 chip, that doesn't mean Apple's in trouble or that the iPhone sucks now. Like, I think that Android phones could very comfortably have a significant lead in the CPU and GPU department, and I would still prefer the iPhone, and the iPhone would still probably age better and get software updates for 6 years. Whereas, okay, cool, Snapdragon 875, it's really fast, it's really powerful, but we still stop supporting it after 2 to 3 years. It's not the end of the world. It's a cool metric that the iPhone is still faster, but even if it wasn't, I don't think it would change very much. So they're pretty close from what I've seen. 865, I think it was faster than the A13. Not as fast as the A14. Let's see. Replace the hard drive with an SSD, then the speed will be reasonably good. If you are willing to buy the SSD and replace it and do all of that for free, then sure, but we're not spending a dime on that thing. If we were to I'm not willing to spend money on something that old that could basically just wake up and die at any moment. Literally, if at any time that 2009 MacBook Pro dies, I will be like, yeah, that makes sense. It's really old. We've been brutal to it. My wife bought it used. She didn't even buy it new. The cycle life, I'm sure, is in the thousands and thousands. And it's taken a beating. There was one time it fell off of a table and landed on tile. Even if it was $20, don't care. I'm not willing to spend the amount of time it takes for me to wait to open the lid and for the DVD player to rev up. It's not worth $20 of my time. Not even close. I wouldn't pay $1 to fix it. And because there's so many other problems it could have at the same time. Like, I could replace the SSD and then something else will go out on it. I'm sure I could, but I just no amount of money is worth it. I would have to make money for it to be worth it. No, thank you. I don't like. I've done the tear down stuff before. It's not my cup of tea. No, thank you. It's fine. It's fine. It really doesn't take that long. There's no amount of money that I could justify it with. Let's see. I'm just used to lag and habits of loading graphics low and slowly turning them up and waiting 15 minutes before I even dare to launch Chrome. You know, ever since Safari supported 4K at 60 on YouTube, I have not used Chrome at all. I did not download Chrome on the MacBook Air. There's just no point. I was like, why bother? It was like the one reason I was keeping Chrome around, and now Chrome doesn't even have that advantage over Safari. What's the point? I used to have a 6S, which was pretty slow, but it still worked pretty well. Yeah, my dad was up on a 6S up until a few days ago. He just switched over to the 11 Pro Max I sold him. He says he loves it so far. He's getting used to it. Let's see. I had a 2010 ThinkPad up until my 2012 Intel MacBook Air. Ooh. 2020 Intel MacBook Air. Rest in peace, Yusuf. Let's see. Apple usually acts like they're acts like no one else exists. That's true. Apple likes to pretend that no one else is in the market. It's just us. Let's not even bring up the existence of other companies. That's probably their marketing style. Is they're like that. We don't want you to think there's other options. It's just us and them, and you're either with us or you're with them. It's that simple. Let's see. Is there something you have to do to get Safari to show you 4K options in YouTube? Because I don't see any options above 1080p. It shouldn't. Are you sure the video was uploaded in 4K? Because for me, it just shows up. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to change any settings for me. Make sure the video supports 4K. That's part of it. The way Apple got all the TSMC 5nm fabrications, anyone else might as well not exist. Yeah, might as well. Trying to compare anything even remotely similar to the M1 chip. To get a processor, you know what was funny? Was the M1 chip was coming out with the speed test, and it was really fast. And I saw all these people saying, why are they comparing it to a GTX 1050 Ti? That's like a really old graphics card, and it was on a budget. Like, that's not impressive. That's a 5-year-old graphics card. Who cares about that? And also, my PC has a chip that's faster than that. And it's like, yeah, because that's a PC. There's no battery, you fool. That has fans that can keep it cool. This is 5 nanometers, and it's faster than a graphics card that used to have fans and was this big, and we're now putting it on a microchip with no fans. That's the impressive part. You got to acknowledge, like, the state of the chip, the performance you're getting on something that weighs a little more than a pound that you can throw in a manila envelope. Like, that's the miraculous thing. It's not that the M1 chip isn't faster than some custom PC build. It's incredible. Apple has fans, human fans. Battlefield PS4, thank you for the tier 1 sub. That costs money. I don't know why you want to spend money on Twitch, but thank you. Just use Twitch Prime if you have Prime. If you don't have Prime, don't worry about it. Even gaming laptops that are 20 inches thick use 1050 Ti. So yeah, 1050 Ti performance in a MacBook Air that's fanless is insane. Exactly. That's the point. You have to acknowledge where it is. It's like saying, I'm trying to think of a good comparison. It would be like if someone made a pickup truck with like 60 miles per gallon and people were like, a Prius can get that. It's like, yeah, but that's a Prius. We're talking about a pickup truck. You know, I don't know. That's not even a great example. It's like saying, it's like someone buying an iPhone and they're like, hey, A14 chip is this fast on Geekbench, and it's faster than a lot of Windows laptops on a phone. And someone says, like, well, the 28-core Mac Pro is faster. Oh, I got it. It's like that scene in Matilda. Have you guys seen Matilda? It's a great movie. It's based on a book, I think. But there's a scene in that movie where the girl that Danny DeVito doesn't want to go to school. She eventually goes to school, but she spent all this time when she was little, like reading books and becoming this like mastermind genius. And she's like this master mathematician, even though she's like in kindergarten. And the teacher's really impressed with Matilda. She's like, holy crap, she can multiply like huge numbers and know the answer right away. So she goes to the principal, and the principal kind of hates all children, you know, like most principals. And she goes, Matilda can multiply big numbers in her head. And the teacher's like, so can a calculator. She's like, a calculator can do that. It's not that impressive. This is like $2. Who cares that a kid can do that in their head? That's what the whole M1 chip isn't that fast. My PC is faster. That's what that equivalent is. It's like, yeah, but you got to acknowledge someone who can multiply three-figure numbers in their head and tell you the answer right away is impressive, even though, yes, you could pull out a calculator and get the answer very quickly. Still, acknowledging the context of how it's able to get that performance in such a tiny chip with a fanless architecture, that's the impressive part. 3 nanometer will be the next process. Oof. If the 1050 Ti was an old card, then why do thick gaming laptops with tons of vents and fans still use them? Well, it's because the PC market is very... Ironically, the PC market is very narrow viewed. They really only see custom PC, and it became a meme in our Discord for a while that like you could list any price and someone would be like, I can build a gaming PC for that, because there would be people that were in the market for a laptop for college or school, and obviously they want it to be a Mac because they use it for video editing, or they want it to work well with their iPhone, have that ecosystem support of being able to, use iMessage and text. And so someone's like, I'm in the market for a MacBook. I was thinking somewhere around $1,400. And someone would enter the conversation and be like, $1,400, I could build a great gaming PC for that. It's like, yeah, but that doesn't help this situation. The PC market is not really paying much attention to the gaming laptop market because gaming laptops are kind of dumb, and there's not a lot of people that buy them in the first place because the battery life sucks, and you're pretty much going to have just a slightly more portable desktop. At the end of the day, if you buy a gaming laptop, you're still going to have to be paying attention. Where is my nearest outlet? So if you're going to be near an outlet all the time, it makes sense to just buy a PC anyway, and that's what most people have. So yeah, just put a big gaming PC in your backpack and walk around with that. It's a very common meme for someone to just enter the conversation of any discussion on what type of computer do I want to buy. You could just build your own gaming PC for cheaper. It's like it became a meme to the point of like, you could be listing something else. Someone's like, I want to get something for drawing, and I was thinking of an iPad because I like the App Store and the low latency Apple Pencil. So this one costs around $800. I could build a gaming PC for $800. Like, but that won't do anything of the original purpose. But thanks for your input. Thank you. Yes, we're aware. You can build a gaming PC at pretty much any price margin, whether it's $500. We're aware, but gaming PCs are pretty much good at one thing, and that not everybody does. So because most people who are into the PC market aren't buying gaming laptops, they're not thinking about 1050 Ti still being used. There was just someone on Twitter that was spamming like literally every tweet. There was that we were talking about how great the M1 chip performance was, and he was just like, 1050 Ti not that good, 1050 Ti that integrated graphics, my PC has better graphics than that. And it's like, do you think this is the only silicon chip? Do you think they're only going to make one and they're just going to put this in everything? In which case you completely missed the point of the event. Let's see. Can confirm mine needs to be replaced and it's 7 years old. There you go. You can build a better PC than laptop. Well, it makes sense. There's a lot of things you can bypass when you're building a PC. Obviously, you don't have to buy a battery, and you don't have to worry about battery life, and you don't have to worry as much about thermals because it's a big brick. So yeah, it's obvious. Of course, you can make something with better performance that's not a laptop. In the same way, you can make a light bulb that lasts longer if it can plug into a wall compared to a light bulb that's powered by a battery. It's that simple. My iMac has a much better battery life than my MacBook. Never died once. My battery has never died on my iMac. Let's see. In single-threaded, the A14 scores slightly below a Ryzen 9 3950X. I showed it to my friend, and he was like, oh, it's only single-threaded. It's a phone processor against the most powerful desktop CPU. You can't say that it isn't impressive. I would say that's very impressive. Slightly below the 5950X, which is basically not available yet, way faster than the 10900K or 3950X. I don't know how you guys remember all that stuff, but yeah, don't buy gaming laptops. Not a good idea. But the fact that a MacBook Air can get that type of graphics performance is pretty awesome. You can buy a console for less than a gaming PC also that has more performance. Don't go down that trend. The PC market is nasty, I must say. there's some type of, I've talked about it before. I'm not saying all of you. I'm not trying to generalize everybody, but some people I know are just fine and they buy what they want and live and let live, But there are some people, not all, there are some people in the gaming PC market, the PC Master Race thing, which is a reference to, Master Race. You know what that means? Like, it's kind of weird. The PC Master Race has this certain level of entitlement when they build the machine themselves that makes them be like, I am now better than Apple because I've created something that costs less. There's like this overwhelming, like, I don't know what you call it, ego that comes with someone's, I built my PC. I built that. And it's better than a MacBook. And that's impressive because I built it. And they have that type of really high and mighty mentality of like, I am better, I am right, and you can't talk about this because you didn't build it. Like, I've just dealt with that a lot in the tech community, that if you don't build your computer, you are less of a user and you don't know what you're talking about and that kind of thing. And it's, I don't like the extremists, basically. I don't like that side of it. There's obviously tons of people that just build PCs they like, and if there's people in their life that don't build PCs, they're fine with it. They're just like, yeah, that suits your needs best. But I've just interacted with a lot of people that basically act like if you buy anything that's not a gaming PC, you're wasting your time. You should basically have a phone and a PC and nothing else. There's no in between. Let's see. I got to get going here, but I'll work it up. I work in IT and everyone hates Apple. It's fairly common. Oh, you don't want a gaming PC? Banned. Like Slack said. A Mac? That's not a custom-built gaming PC. If my computer cannot play the latest PC games, then it basically doesn't need to exist. There's no purpose. Computers can only be used to play PC games, and that is all. If you try to use it for anything else, it is stupid and not worth your money. I build my own Windows machines. I also own iPads, iPhones, and Apple Watches and MacBooks. Each have their own purpose, each to their own, and buy what you need. That's good. I'm glad we have that. Well, you watch me, because if the people I'm talking about are not the type to watch me, because they would have given up on me a long time ago and been like, this guy isn't worth my time. Yeah, but is your iPhone water cooled? I didn't think so, idiot. Until the iPhone has a GTX 3080, I'm not interested. It has to have a dedicated GPU. There's an extremist, elitist side of the PC market that is like that, and I'm not exaggerating because they've shown up in the Discord a lot. Software doesn't really matter. If I can't get 5,000 FPS in Minecraft, the computer has no functional purpose. Yeah, your PC can game better than mine, but how come my MacBook Air with a dual core can video edit just as good? Yeah, there you go. And then the updates screw them over. And the game needs to do 500 FPS while attached to the 60 FPS monitor. There's so many people that are in there like, I need it to hit at high frames, and then they use their like 21-inch Asus 1080p monitor from 2014. And they're like, why can't I get 150 FPS? And they always have it set up on like a plastic prop-up table, the kind that fold up. And they're just like, yeah, this is performance. I'm overclocking it, yeah. And then they say they're going to upgrade. Well, what's nice about PCs is I can upgrade the individual parts when I need to. And then 90% of them just use the exact same parts they got when they built it for 5 years. And then when that gets too slow, they just decide to build a whole new one from scratch. You know the Master Race I'm talking about. 'Cause drivers. TVTube, thank you for the Twitch Prime sub for 26 months. Wow, that's a long time. Appreciate it. Anyway, when is the iPad getting water cooling? RTX 5 bajillion support. I gotta get going, guys. But thank you all for tuning in. Appreciate the Twitch Primes, the bits. It's been fun. It's been real. I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving. I'll probably not stream again for a while because I'll be celebrating. But hope you have a good day. Love you guys. Take care.